If there are any questions now for the next 10 to 15 minutes, you can address them to either speakers. Sure, yeah.
There's a few questions that just come up, and I think I just want to elaborate on that before I take further questions. I apologize for sister, the question, I don't know whether it was a third question, so I apologize for that. One of the things that I think Brother Aisha at the back pointed out is Stephen Hawking's. Now again, this was what I was mentioning about pursuing theories which have bearings on metaphysical questions. So scientists don't stick to physical phenomena, they go outside physical phenomena, rationalize metaphysics and try to curtail that to the physical world. So I think that example that brother was giving at the back is an excellent example where scientists do that. So scientists are not delimited to physical phenomena the way they've got these rules like methodological naturalism that I was talking about earlier. The brother here in the middle spoke about literally miracles of the Quran and whether there are signs. I personally hold to a middle position where scientific miracles of the Quran is i'jaz al-Quran, establishing at the level of qat'i, which is conclusive. But there is a level below conclusive level which is known as the level of zan. Now, empirical sciences is a form of ijtihad, and ijtihad is a tertiary level reasoning. So therefore, it follows that when scientists do the empirical sciences and studies, this falls into the level of tertiary level reasoning, and that reasoning can be incorporated into the Tawhidic universalism, which one my lecture was about. So therefore, scientific data is not excluded from religious discourse. Although the Eurocentric worldview wants you to exclude it, but it's not excluded. And another point was mentioned, which was about boundaries of orthodoxy. The ulama have a framework. If any novel matter of aqidah or ideology arises, then that framework is fixed. Now, how we interpret is not fixed. So the ulama have variations in the way they interpret modern ideologies and whether someone falls outside the pale of Islam or someone falls within the pale of Islam. Now that framework is qat'iyyu dalala, qat'iyyu thubut. If a verse or if a nusus, if a text is conclusive in its indications and conclusive in its meanings, and someone denies that, then that person falls out of the pale of Islam. And that framework will not change for any time. It's a timeless framework. How we interpret that framework may be variable, and there isn't that much variation. The traditionally trained ulama will not differ amongst themselves about the core application because they're trained in matters of aqidah. The problem happens where non-traditionally trained scholars try to interpret ideologies and develop their own hermeneutics, their own principles, and that's where the problem arises. I'll give you one quick example and I'll finish on that and I'll take a few more questions, inshallah. Is the problem where, so you have this qat'iyyu dalala, qat'iyyu thubut, which makes the aqidah conclusive. Now you may find that in the modern time, many of the scientific discourse is being interfaced onto Islam, and what happens is that this scientific discourse is being treated as fundamental, and the Islamic discourse is being treated as subordinate. So there are rules how to interpret that type of situation. Now I'll give you 5 schools of thought on that. So first school of thought is where the scientific data is being taken as fundamental, the primary source, and the theological data is being taken secondary. This is a problematic narrative. Secondly, where the religion is being taken as the predominant source and the science is being totally ignored. This is also problematic. Thirdly, the religion and science have been combined. And in that combination, whether the religion is preponderated over science or science is preponderated over religion, there are differences. So the first group tries to preponderate religion over science, The second group tries to preponderate science or religion. Both of these are problematic narrative. And the last group, which is where religion and science be taken fundamentally in matters of qat'i issues, and you try to combine. This is the way in terms of how we see the aqidah. Tawhidic universalism rests on this fundamental claim, that you try to combine your science and your theology. You don't try to undermine one or the other in matters that are conclusively established by reasoning and by sensory perceptions and also by theology. So I just wanted to clarify those points.
We have a question from a sister.
There was a sister there.
Yeah. Okay,
thank you. This is more of a statement. Some of the audience members have alluded to the fact that Islamophobia is erroneous. There's massive Islamophobia industry which pays a lot of money. And Ayaan Hirsi Ali, she had to leave Holland because of a fabricated asylum story. And there was a documentary when her own family members were interviewed saying that she was from a middle-class family, all of this is very right. There's a lot of money behind it, and what we need to do essentially is to educate our young to make sure they don't fall into the trap that these people are trying to encourage people to leave Islam.
Okay, so just
sorry, just give me another question as well.
That's online. There's a question from online.
So how would you describe the relationship between academic atheists of Beirut, etc., and popular atheists, Dawkins, Harris, etc.?
Okay.
That's one question.
Okay. So I'm just going to rephrase what she said. So what's your name?
Rayla.
Huh?
Rayla?
Wayla? Yeah, so Wayla pointed out that behind the whole atheism movement, there is an Islamophobic push. And she highlighted how Hirsi Ali, she actually fabricated some parts of her biography to get the asylum episode, for example. And I've seen that episode myself. So there is some sort of behind the scenes, as you pointed out, maybe something wider going on. So I do know that there are, for example, Daniel Pipes, he's a big one. He's an anti-Islamic propagandist, and he's published several books, and he's funded several $100,000 in institutions to try and push that narrative. And I think that's why it's all the more important that education at the core has to be solid. It needs to be very, very robust to be able to, for them to critically navigate through stories. The question online pretty much tried to explain what is the relationship between academic atheists and new atheists. It's like, Zameen Asman Farq, so the heavens and the earth difference. Academic atheists, of course, I may respectfully disagree with them. They are incredibly much more thorough in their narrative, much more thorough. Of course, we differ on the conclusions on aspects, but they're much more rigorous and thorough in the works that they present. New atheism is a very hodgepodge type of, it's like a soup of just things that they've put up and they've called it a narrative. It's a very weak version of atheism, very easily refutable. There's thousands of articles on this, tons of literature. So I think that if you wanted to characterize that, I would say if you take Mona Lisa as a standpoint of the academic atheist, a 2-year-old drawing would be the new atheist movement. That's how I would render those two. Big difference.
I'll just add one point, that academic atheism, I don't think there is a type of atheism which is academic, and the reason why I say that is because those who claim to be academic atheists are in fact, if you really dig down into the depth, agnostic. So they just they're neutral with regards to any belief system. And what they do is they've taken that leap of faith and they've divided atheism into positive and negative atheism, explicit, implicit atheism. But implicit and negative atheism is a conflation of terms, which is in fact what I believe is an agnosticism, not atheism. Yes, brother Aisha at the back.
Yeah, I'm just going to add to that comment, inshallah, because I think that's extremely true. What established Stephen Hawking to his position was his grand design and all of the original books that he wrote, where he didn't say that there wasn't any God, and he didn't say that he did believe in God. So he kind of had this agnostic approach in his book, and everybody was like, wow, he's so academic. And then his last book before he died was a more pronounced atheism. It was a more pronounced atheism, and ironically, it's his kind of the worst argumentation that he ever put forward for it. So I think just to add to that, very true. And there's one question there.
So in both talks, the thing that we've done a lot is sort of highlight the flimsy basis on which either the scientific approach is built on or what atheism is built on. But regardless of that, the adoption of the scientific discourse in this Eurocentric worldview of separating God and man has led to Western civilization progressing economically, intelligently. So my question is, where do you see Islamization of science? Where do you see that fit within that paradigm, or does it fit outside of that? Would it be taken seriously?
So which paradigm?
I think the Eurocentric worldview.
Okay, so I think the brother's asking a question that Islamization of knowledge, would that be taken seriously within the Eurocentric paradigm? It wouldn't be taken seriously because the Eurocentric paradigm rests on the premises that on materialistic premise, and the Islamization of knowledge requires dualism in our nature, which is material and immaterial, body and mind. So there is a direct conflict between these two worldviews. The conflict is not in the empirical sciences itself. The conflict is the way the worldview within which empirical science is being received. So there will be a conflict, and that's where the clash of civilization narrative comes in, rather than clash of the natural sciences. So the empirical science within the Islamic methodological framework and empirical science within the secular methodological framework is exactly the same. We don't try to reinvent the wheel. So whatever the modern scientists are studying and doing will be received very well. What won't be received very well within Islamization, or the framework of Islamization, is the Eurocentric secularized metaphysics. And as I pointed out at the beginning of my lecture, that metaphysics assumes several assumptions which are not empirically grounded, but they are taken from they've been over-rationalized, and they've been taken from a worldview which has taken from this conflict between religion and science within the Christian world, and that such a thing has not occurred within the Muslim world. The experience the Muslims were having was a very harmonious experience, whereas in Europe the experience was different. So there would be a clash between Eurocentric worldview and the process of Islamization of knowledge.
We've got time for two more questions, two very quick questions with hopefully very quick responses. Okay, yeah?
If the Eurocentric view is based on cause and effect, and Taoidic universalism is based on bringing both metaphysics and the natural sciences together, can you please explain, using an example, that Eurocentric view will explain gravity falling the apple from the tree? In Taoidic tradition, how do you explain gravity?
In Tawhidic tradition, gravity will be explained as Allah's implementation of regularity in the natural world. So the only difference between the Tawhidic paradigm and the Eurocentric paradigm would be a Eurocentric paradigm assumes that this regularity is necessary. But in the Tawhidic paradigm, there is an opportunity to hold that miracles do happen, so the regularity is a default, but it's not necessary. So this is just a regular bond between the cause and effect. So the causal nexus, the relationship between cause and effect is regularity rather than necessity. So that's where they depart from each other.
Okay, actually that's not a question, it's just a comment, because actually all what we have heard and discussed today is amazing and beautiful, but that's not enough. We need something on the practical level to equip our children against this wave. And actually I've been working with Dr. Ahmed for the past 12 years in counseling atheist teenagers. and we actually made 60 short videos dealing with the atheistic misconceptions and general misconceptions that the new atheists are actually hitting us with, like being anti-Semitic, being anti-scientific, stuff like that. And recently, and this is what I want to mention, it's very important, Tarbiyah is very important, and we started as a number of one-day workshops for children, in which we vaccinate the children against mesotheism. The children have to understand that, why they're, and against also, and to understand why are these things happening, why especially Islam is under attack, not Buddhism. There are religions where people worship cockroaches, actually. No one is attacking them. Why especially Islam? Our children have to be vaccinated by giving them the answer that makes them proud of being members of the religion under attack. So this is the issue. I need from you now like a final word about the importance of tarbiyah. We actually, one of the reasons of mesotheism is the wrong tarbiyah that we give to our children in our houses. Because when the child starts walking and then he stumbles, we say, bad rug. The rug made him fall. And when he bumps his head into a chair, we say, bad chair. The chair hit Ahmed. So Ahmed grows up knowing that he doesn't do any mistakes. And if anything wrong happens to him, it's external. So when Ahmed starts just having some hardship learning or something like that, he starts looking for someone who did this wrong to him, and he starts hating God. But the Quran is actually doing tarbiyah opposite to this, exactly. Telling us, ما أصابكم من مصيبة فبما كسبت أيديكم ويعفو عن كثير. Anything wrong that happens to you, it's an outcome of your own handiwork. So we do exactly the opposite tarbiyah in our houses. So we need to actually deal with the two people that destroy the minds of our children, the parents and the teachers. Not all parents and not all teachers, but those two types of people have to be educated on how to give proper tarbiyah to the children, and then we have to deal with the children themselves through like a one-day workshop or stuff like that, where we can vaccinate them from time to time. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's a point of reflection for us all, and I think we're in the perfect place to, to sort of take heed of that advice, given that that's precisely, I think, what Fatimah Elizabeth Cates Academy does. It allows these sorts of conversations to take place. I just wanted to touch on, I can't remember who the sister somewhere mentioned the Islamophobia industry. There is indeed an Islamophobia industry in England that's interested in hearing more about that. Should look up Muslim engagement and development. I was behaving, it's that somebody mentioned the Islamophobia industry, which is why it wasn't fun. So I'm volunteering men to Muslim engagement and development. So if anybody does want to learn more about the Islamophobia industry, then do look them up. There was a question I just wanted, in terms of the Orthodox and this and that, every time you said that, what kept coming to my head was, but who defines that? Because you get society superimposes a good Muslim, a bad Muslim. Or what we tend to hear quite often is a moderate Muslim, an extreme Muslim. And it's almost like if you say, okay, what's an extreme version of the colour red? Well, it's maroon. It's not, something bizarre. It's not green, right? So an extreme version of anything that results in killing can't then begin with peace. Do you see what I mean? So those kind of, who makes that decision as to what the right kind of, I know what you're saying, and I think that comes from, but who defines that really? Because we know that sheikhs can define it, and there's certain things with Aqidah, but we know that society also says, right, this is an acceptable, you can be this Muslim. Anything beyond that, you fall into extremism. Anything beyond that, you're liberated. Yeah, so I think that's a very interesting question, and probably something that changes with time and with society. As for the social sciences, you mentioned they have more valid arguments, or certainly more concrete arguments. I think that might actually be because in the social sciences, when you're talking about evidence and when you're talking about how to measure something, the way you operationalize it isn't as straightforward. So you say, for example, happiness, how do you measure happiness? It's not something you can see. But social scientists, for example, they have a way of saying, okay, people report their mood, or you can measure changes in brain activity or things like that. In the same way, I think it's probably much harder to find something like that for religion. I don't know what you think of that. But it's something, I think, in the way in which outcomes and data are collected differently in the social sciences as opposed to the higher sciences. But I'm just going to ask our speakers for... Yeah? Yeah, Gina, go through.
Jazakallah, Dr. Fadl Suleiman, for the question. I just want you to contemplate over this. What if we were working within the Tawhidic paradigm and our children were learning sciences under the integrated paradigm where the problem of evil, they were able to appreciate the dichotomy that the theologians create between kasbi and khalq and these kind of things. And then they're being taught the natural sciences under the Quranic tarbiyah. So natural sciences, social sciences, formal sciences, political sciences, all sciences across board, working in a Tawhidic paradigm, and the teachers who are teaching the students are teaching those morals, those ethics, those doing tarbiyah and nurturing those children under the Quranic paradigm. And Quran being tibyan kulli shay is a guide for all domains of study. If we had such a thing, and if our epistemology was directed to such a system of education, I think the problems you rightly identified wouldn't remain. These problems are there because our parents, when these incidences happen, they haven't been trained in the Tawhidic paradigm, they've been trained under a secular paradigm. So they have this subconscious demarcation between these views, and they blame maybe non-material, or maybe blame God, or think this kind of thing. These things wouldn't happen had the parents and the children worked under the Tawhidi paradigm. So it's something I think is worth thinking about and contemplating at this new paradigm.
Paradigm is it need to be starting from individual to go to universality, or from universal?
This could work both ways. So as a parent, if I'm teaching my children, I will try to connect the dots for the child, and those dots will not segregate between the religious tarbiyah of my child and the secular sciences the school's teaching. On the other hand, the effort needs to be made where our religious institutes need to come out of the demarcation and dualism in knowledge and teach the sciences collectively in an integrated paradigm. So I think it works both ways, both within, from the grassroots to the level of, from grassroots as well as from top down level.
Yeah.
Can I just say, as a simple, maybe for many of us who work in the community, take-home message that I know you referred to it with its official term of Tawhidic universalism, is that the term? But ultimately, as a community, we have to work towards desecularization of our mindset and the way we teach our children. I teach a science class once a week, and we were talking about liver failure. I don't know how we got onto that, primary school-age children. And it was a small group of children, and somebody asked about poisons in the liver. So we're talking about hepatitis. But I did take the discussion of Muslim children towards poisons and people who feel confused about life and take their own life and take too many paracetamol and the effect of that on liver damage and so on. So for me, it's quite simple. What's going wrong is that we are taking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala out of the framework, out of the process of thinking. So it's really, at an everyday level, it's a secularization of our thought. And obviously this discussion has many tiers, and there's a very academic level, which on the background you come from. But for many of us, we need to take away from that how we can make changes every day. And there are many external factors like Islamophobia, the political agenda, many other dots to connect. But we can start with this effort of desecularization of that mindset and educational effort.
So I think you've hit the key term, the desecularization of knowledge and infusing our Islamic principles. And that's what Tawhid Universalism is all about. Because we have a system already in place, but there's no paradigm that connects the dots between the different sciences. So we just need to consider that this epistemological framework which I have discussed today, which is to connect those dots, and after connecting those dots, then infusing them to our children and also the society at large. So I think I totally agree with what you're saying.
I think all right, I think if maybe we'll stop at that point, and I think that's a perfect point to end on.
I'm just going to end the conference now because we're over time. I just wanted to thank Shaykh Usman for his lecture, his time and effort, and also Dr. Shoaib as well. And just to finalise, just to let you know that this is not the end of the discussion, it's just the beginning of the discussion. And for those who came later on, there's two more. There'll be two more lectures in January by Professor Shoaib and Shaykh Usman as well. The title for that will be Evolution, Science and Islam. And then also during the Easter holidays, there's going to be an extensive 5-day course with about 4-hour sessions. We're going to try and see if we can have probably something in the evenings as well, possibly a bit more summarised for those who cannot come during the daytime. And that will be on the philosophy of science and religion, which is a module that you're teaching, or which you're going to summarise. And things that include introduction to philosophy of science and religion, relating science and religion, logic, science and pseudoscience, demarcation problem, the epistemology of science, physics and theology, evolution and theology, natural theology, theology of nature, and Islam and science. So I did speak to some of the audience outside as well who are in secondary school, and they're here, some of them from our madrasa as well. And I did mention to them that they were saying there were certain key terms they didn't understand. But that's what these courses are there for, to help them. And also, inshallah, tomorrow Professor Shoaib and Shaykh Usman will be also visiting our madrasa to speak to the secondary school students directly as well. So if they have any questions, they will also be talking to the professors tomorrow as well, inshallah. So mainly the secondary school students. So once again, jazakallah for the audience for coming and bringing your questions. And inshallah, like I said, this is only the beginning. We will have much more coming. So just follow us on social media and just keep a look at jazakallah.